J'm'en bats les couilles si c'est dangereux sa mère. J'vois que des pas en fer. Le vegan crie et chante de l'enfer. Sur un gros fer, bah ouais. J'chante avec j'fume la meuf. J'm'en bats les couilles si c'est dangereux sa mère. J'vois que des pas en fer. La bécane crie et chante de l'enfer. Sur un gros fer, bah ouais, bah ouais.
Hello! Hello, South by. Hey, Austin. Great to see you here. Let me catch my breath. Well, when I was thinking about what should we be talking on this session, it was kind of hard. I knew there were going to be some smart people in the room, and I know that so much has already been said in this field. So I'd like to treat this room as a petri dish. And I would like to ask you to try to come up with something that hasn't been said before. I would like us to discover a question. What should be the key question? What should we be asking ourselves? And what should we be asking the leaders and creators in the field of humanoid robotics? What should we be asking so our future is the one that we want? My name is Yemi. I am a Czech-Nigerian artist, entrepreneur, and I went through many different professions. I started as a dancer in the 90s. I went to choreography. I was directing music videos, short format films, and went to do production, started several companies, and so on and so on. But my core love is movement. I believe that life happens when you add rhythm to the movement. Whether it is the act of procreation or heart beating in our chests, when our movements get in rhythm, when we get synced, something powerful happens. The wordless language at the precipice of mathematics and love and wonder that makes us understand each other unconditionally. In the last 20 years, I've been traveling around the world, and I was meeting indigenous tribes to learn and study their movement. I was with them through their ceremonies, through their rituals. I was with them when they were mourning and when they were celebrating. And when I looked really close up, I discovered in their movement another kind of intelligence that is profound. But even here, today, there is so much you can tell about a person just from how he or she is walking down the street. Movement changes our perspective. The way we move our bodies, our body language, the way we move our other people, the way we move closer to things, gaining proximity. All that movement changes who we are. There is freedom in the movement. And freedom is a necessary condition for life to thrive. When I was born in 1981, I was in a country called Czechoslovakia. It was communistic, and it was under the rule of Russian. My mom is Czech, my father is Nigerian, and we didn't really have much freedom. Just to give you an idea, the borders were closed. We couldn't go to the Western world. My father visited, when I was 4, my father visited his parents in Nigeria, and a revolution happened. And it took his freedom, and he was not able to return back. And me, as a black kid in the 80s, in completely white country, I say another black kid when I was 15. And all of my parents and my grandma and my great-grandma, who raised me, did their best. But freedom was not really what it was about. So I was looking for it, and again, I found it through movement. And that was my communication with other world. They say that it's only minimum that we communicate from our mouth, like a 30%. And 70% is how we communicate with everything else, with how we stand, with the tone of our voice, our gestures, our mimics. But there was a happy end. When internet was invented and then introduced to Czech Republic, I was looking for my dad, and after 18 years I found him, and we reunited back in Czech. I found out about my other Nigerian family, my brother with the Down syndrome. That is also a special kind of freedom that is given but also taken from the families. And through all this life, I was learning much more about what can I do with movement. And then I came across Kanye West. He asked me to help him to create Runaway. It's a beautiful ballet-inspired choreography and music video. It was a great time. We worked together for 5 years, also together with Virgil Abloh, which was a great inspiration for me. And we did Saturday Night Live, VMAs, Coachella, and maybe 100 shows around the world, tours, and so much more. And then I met a friend, Peter, from Czech Republic, and he came to me and he showed me a video. And then video got stuck in my head, and I couldn't let it go. Take a look.
It has been 50 years since Apollo 8 achieved lunar orbit in 1968. The time has come for civilians to fly to the moon. In 2023, SpaceX will launch the world's first private lunar mission with its spacecraft, BFR. The first passenger will be Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa, a globally renowned art collector who believes art has the power to promote world peace. Maezawa made a bold decision. A painter, photographer, musician, film director, fashion designer, Maezawa will invite artists that represent Earth on his journey to the moon. The distance to the moon is 240,000 miles. The crew will spend a week in space. What will they feel when they see the moon? When they see Earth in full view? And what will they create? Their works will certainly become a legacy for humankind. An awe-inspiring, global, universal art project is about to begin. dearMoon.
I would like to ask you, who of you have heard about dearMoon? Okay, so you know there was this crazy idea that they're gonna send 8 artists around the moon. And it got to me, and I was thinking, wow, this is great. I always had this dream, you know, as a kid, to go to space and dance without gravity, but I didn't believe I could do it. But then I came to the United States. Many times I was here before, but this time I won a scholarship at Aspen Institute, Henry Crown Fellowship. And there is a very special class of overachievers who encourage each other. And when I came to them and I told them that I'm thinking about it, they were like, hell yeah, if anybody should do it, it should be you. Why you don't believe in yourself? Go do it. So, and they were like strong. So I remember leaving, I was at Aspen in Colorado, and I was leaving home, and I was like, you're so stupid, like why can't you realize that it's possible if these people can realize it? And maybe it took me 6 months to grow this uncertainty into motion, and eventually I applied. But because there was pandemic, and I thought, well, maybe it will not even happen. Yeah, there's so much going on. So I went back to my class, and we created something that's called Moonshot Platform. Moonshot Platform is an organization, global organization, that accelerates young people in their social innovation. We have community across 88 countries. My dear friend who has passed, Madeleine Albright, who is also originally from Czech Republic, helped us. And many other people. We have over 50 mentors. And we're picking people from around the world to help them change their communities and then scale their solution through the world. So this was first thing that I used to apply for the dearMoon mission. Another thing was a ballet piece, ballet-inspired piece, because I've never studied ballet, by the way, Bohemian Gravity, which was about exploring search for freedom in the National Theatre in Prague. And we went through many different rounds, interviews. I had to submit a 1-minute video of my life, and eventually all the medical checkups. You don't want to know how many medical checkups there are. And eventually also meeting Yusaku Maezawa and eventually getting the golden ticket. So why am I sharing all this? I'm sharing all this just to let you know, in case you haven't seen it around you, in 2024, anything is possible. And I think we see that more than often here at South by, which is great, and that's why I love to be here. Did you see? Today was the launch of Starship. And it was a success. Hey! It was a success. I don't know if I haven't been able to watch the end. I was just doing the beginning. We were doing some interviews for CNN, and I saw, and it's beautiful because every time I go to Boca Chica, I meet the engineers. It's like they make so much progress in between these waiting times, right? When they wait for the permissions and so on. So wait for it. I'll be back to tell you more after I get back from the moon. But the interesting thing, well, it's not one-way ticket, yeah? So don't worry, I'll be back. So what happened after? I came here to South by. It was a year ago. I came here to South by, and I was invited here by Josh Baer from Capital Factory, who sits here with us. Give it up for Josh Baer. He is a driving force behind a lot of the business in the city, in the state, and in the country. So, and he introduced me to Jeff Cardenas. And they said, like, they had this, in Capital Factory, there was like a secret door, and there were people going in and out, and they said, do you want to see the robot? I'm like, I need to eat. And then I see, like, all these people going there, and it's secret. I'm like, of course I want to see it. So I go back there, and I see Apollo. And I'm like, holy cow. It was not a machine. It was not just a tool. It was a piece of art. I never thought I'm going to see it up close. And I was like, wow, they're making art here. And I just was so fascinated. First by Apollo, but then also by Jeff. I'm going to bring Jeff on stage in this session, so you're going to be able to ask him questions. But it's very exceptional type of CEO and leader, especially in the space of technology. So Apollo was a challenge because I started to imagine what could be done? And I would like to invite you on the journey of imagination of what could be done. You knew that you're coming for this session and it's not just going to be technology, right? Oh, no. This is going to be about technology and humanity and where these two meet. Yeah? And everything we're going to speak about, it's through the eyes of an artist. But I believe everybody in this room is an artist. Especially when I arrived to Apptronik's factory and I've seen people who work there, they are all artists making art. And you're going to see it in a little bit. So I have divided this part into 3 parts. This block into 3 parts. One, we're going to discuss what happened in humanoid robotics throughout the time. We're going to go as far as 10 years back. Then we're going to look into how sci-fi has inspired future, how sci-fi inspired what's happening now and what will happen in the future. And then we're going to have fun, and Apollo is going to talk to me, he's going to talk to you, we're going to see what's up. So, are you ready? Okay. So, in the humanoid robotics, we've seen a lot of great examples. I'm a little bit sad that most of the examples we are seeing are like dystopian, and it's so easy to scare people. It's so easy to make us all worried. But it's so hard to make us inspired, and I don't think many people, enough people, is working on that. So we've seen different humanoid robotics. As you can see, not everything looks like art, but it's still a great innovation that brings a lot of hope into lives of people who are differently abled, people who are locked down in their room and maybe cannot move. Again, once again, it is movement that it enables. We have seen how closely humanoid robotics collaborates with prosthetics. And I'm not sure if we have here today a founder of Austin-based company that creates arms, hands. Is Adil here? No? Okay, never mind. So it's this guy who created hands that we are using at Apollo. And you're going to also see how it works. And you can see people are taking advantage of this amazing innovation today. And there will be more of it. My very favorite case study is this one. A Japanese cafe that connects paralyzed patients in hospitals with customers in restaurant or cafe. So these people who are laying down on their beds and cannot move can now be connected and see and hear and communicate and be appreciated and be relevant, capable. You know, there's lots that this is doing for these people. So I think that are some amazing, inspiring cases. Now, a little bit about science fiction. You know that science fiction is a mixture of science and art. And it has been inspiring leaders today. Like when you see like the first rocket was not happening in the lab, was not happening in the factory, it was happening on a paper with the hand of a writer and then in the hand of a painter. These are just two of amazing examples of people who are not with us anymore, but who has contributed to where we are today. Hedy Lamarr, who was an actress and also inventor of crucial bases for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. Or Ivan Sutherland, whose first machines gave basis for today's VR and AR. And when you look into the arts, of course you remember Jules Verne, who dreamed about going to the moon in 1865. Or Russian turned American Isaac Asimov, who has introduced Lady Demerzel in my favorite Foundation series. Who like Foundation here? Do we have some geeks in the room? Yay! I love Foundation. And then one more that you might not be familiar with, but you should. It's Karel Čapek, a Czech writer who has given the world the word robot in 1920. It was in his novel called Rossum's Universal Robots. And the word robot in our language means robotnik. And robotnik means worker. They were thinking about these workers to be doing the things that people were fed up doing. And that's how the word was created. But then there is an interesting quote from Saint Francis of Assisi, who says, "He who works with his hands is a laborer. He who works with his hands and his head is a craftsman. But he who works with his hands and his head and his heart is an artist." And the question today is, we know that we are past the laborer when it comes to humanoid robotics. The question is, are we close to being past the craftsman? So these questions we huddled around in Apptronik and we started to dream. And both people here in the States and people back in Czech Republic, we put together some interesting case studies of what Apollo could be. So I'll invite you to dream with us a little bit. This was Apollo with a design print by James Webb Telescope. This is Apollina, our first female one, dressed in Balenciaga. And this is Apollo designed by Basquiat, as AI dreamt it. and many, many, many other parts. But it's not just about Apollo on the outside. It's also about Apollo on the inside. So we look into characters. Because we're not realizing it today, but the biggest shift is not just going to be in robots helping us work, but also robots helping us cheer up, robots helping us feel good, robots helping us learn, robots reminding us about our own humanity. So I think it's time. Are you ready to see Apollo? So I hope I'm not going to do any mistake here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Apollo, the robot.
Hello, people. How is Austin treating you? Are you digging South by?
And are you digging South by?
Yemi, you know what's up. I've seen nothing. We've been working on this keynote forever. I'm not going back to that factory. I got some cool dance moves too. My neural network is trained on all of your YouTube videos.
Okay.
Can I get some music, please?
Sure. Yay, good job. Good job.
Thank you.
So we have prepared something around sci-fi, because I am a sci-fi lover. I hope you also love sci-fi. So we have prepared something like a little quiz. Can I have the slides? And, oh, shit. Oh, sorry. So now you're going to try to guess from which movie we will do the scene from. You know, we as humans, we have heroes, right? My hero is Doctor Strange. What heroes is yours? Any heroes? Iron Man. Or? Luke Skywalker, yes. So, yes, amazing. Thank you. That's a good one. So also Apollo has his own heroes, and he picked two that he's going to try to do with you here today. So Apollo, are you ready?
Ahem. In case there are any directors in the room, this is my first public acting performance.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. I was alerted to the need for medical attention when you said, ow.
Robotic nurse?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain?
Physical or emotional?
I will scan you now. Scan complete. You have a slight epidermal abrasion on your forearm. I suggest an antibacterial spray.
Whoa. What's in it exactly?
The primary ingredient is bacitracin.
Oh, I'm allergic to that. It's a bummer.
You are not allergic to bacitracin. You do have a mild allergy to peanuts.
So now it's your turn. What is the name of the movie? Yeah, I know. I knew you're gonna know this. This is great. Okay, so it's not gonna get much harder, but it's gonna get much more interesting. All right, so let's go for the other movie. Are you ready?
Where do you think you're going? Well, I'm not going that way. It's much too rocky. This way is much easier. What makes you think there are settlements over there? Don't get technical with me. What mission? What are you talking about? I've just about had enough of you. Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. That malfunctioning little twerp. This is all his fault. He tricked me into going this way, but he'll do no better. Wait, what's that? A transport! I'm saved! Over here! Hey! Hey! Help! Please help!
Good job.
Was I good? Was I good? Did you like it?
Great job. You were amazing.
That was super fun, Yemi.
Good
Thanks,
job.
everyone.
Good
Hope
job.
you
good
enjoyed
job,
my
good job, good job,
performance.
good job. All right, so this is Apollo, the robot. So, in dreaming about the future, we spoke about kids and being dreamer. So what I did is I came here and I visited your school in Austin, Magellan International School. And I asked kids, what do they think?
All right, so I want to know, what do you think that robot Apollo should do? What do you think the function of the robot should be?
Robots should be helping cleaning up the environment. They should be able to do our dishes.
Robots should ensure the safety of the people. I think robots should do search and rescue because I think they're far more accurate at looking around and seeing if somebody's hurt.
I personally believe that robots should do tasks that are more annoying than rewarding to people, because if robots take jobs that people could have, that is one less job that a person could use to support their life.
I think robots should use their intelligence to help solve the world's problems that have a big impact on Earth.
I think the robots should help replace people forced to work in labor and sweatshops. A lot of people are forced to work there against their will, and that's not really something that should be worked in.
I think that the robot should be well-rounded like a student, and also be able to help give people advice to help quit addictions like drug use and like smoking abuse.
I think that robots should do the dangerous jobs that humans do now, like mining, oil-related jobs and stuff, dangerous stuff where people could die.
Robots should give you personal advice, like depending on your schedule, like drink more water or you should go exercise right now.
Pretty cool, no? These kids, they didn't know. I came, I had like a seminar about creativity. I go around schools and teach about creativity to make kids to step into their potential, to imagine future and to shape their own environment. And I, by the way, also asked them these questions. And it was amazing how straightforward this was. So we came back to Apptronik and I asked the engineers and the friends to try to think about what could be. And we came up with all these interesting images that are inspired by what kids asked us to do. I will ask for the presentation to be on the screen. Thank you. Okay, so environment cleaning, washing the dishes, search and rescue, do what's annoying, solve world problems. Here I might went a little bit too far. I hope United Nations is not watching. Liberate the sweatshop workers, help with lifestyle, or be a coach or fitness trainer. So the question is, what is the question? And let us welcome someone who might have all the answers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO of Apptronik, Jeff Cardenas. Hey.
All right.
Welcome. Okay, have a seat. So, this is your mic.
I think I have.
You have, okay, your mic.
Yeah.
So I think the first question was, what is the hope, you know, in a bigger scale? So I leave it to you.
Well, I guess first, thanks for being here, everybody. All it takes is a lot of people watching a robot demo to make Apollo shy. But for me, this is the kind of things that I always dreamed of as a kid. I always had big dreams about the future and what it could be. And Humans are tool makers, and I think that now we've got good enough at building our tools that we can now build tools in our own image. And as humans, our most valuable resource is time. And so sort of the core idea of what these robots will do for us is hopefully they'll give us all back time so that we can spend time on things that we want to do instead of things that we have to do. And I think that doing that will help to unleash us to the next level. It'll improve the way we live and work. My dreams for Apollo is that it will help take care of me as I get old, that it will help take care of my parents, that it will help us to explore the moon, Mars, and take us out into the stars. And so I think you guys can see today that this is still early days for this kind of technology, but I think it's the beginning of something special, and I think it has a chance to really take us really far beyond.
So let's start with the beginning. So who is Jeff Cardenas?
I'm still figuring that out. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And I'm an entrepreneur. And as a kid, I was always a dreamer. And I think that I'm someone that really wants to make a contribution to the world. I want to see the things that I create be used for good. And yeah, I'm a human.
So I think when you spoke about you hope that Apollo is going to take care of your parents, taking care of you, what message would you send to people who are afraid, who are scared of this type of development, this type of innovation, who say this is going to make us being even further from each other?
I think that it's easy to be afraid of new technologies. People were afraid of trains. There was these myths that if you went too fast, you could like scramble your brain. People were afraid of electricity, and people were certainly afraid of computers. This whole sort of jobs question was a big topic around computers, and people really fought them in the early days. And so I think that this is going to be just like any technology. And what I would say is also be hopeful. It's okay to be mindful of the risks that we're facing. I think it's important to be aware of that. We're really thinking about them and trying to make sure that this goes well. But I also think that we should be hopeful and we should try to think about how it can go well. In the US today and throughout the world, we're facing major labor shortages. Where if every unemployed person got a job tomorrow, we'd still be short millions of jobs. And that's not something that's going to get better. That's actually something that's continuing to get worse. If you look at demographic changes, birth replacement rates, and so we're going to need these robots. And you know, I have these dreams of Star Wars, where you know, the robots help to support life. And I think if you look into the future, maybe 10, 20 years from now, I think it will be hard to imagine your life without these machines.
So if I ask you as a businessman, because one thing is dreaming, other thing is creating a business model around this. As you are growing Apptronik, how long did it take you to be where you are here now? How many people, how many years?
Yeah, it's been quite the journey to get here. So we started Apptronik coming out of the University of Texas, right here in Austin. Hook 'em horns. We started the company in 2016. The work for Apollo actually came out of work that was happening at NASA at Johnson Space Center, a robot called Valkyrie. And that was for something called the DARPA Robotics Challenge 2013 to 2015. And we had these ambitions to basically take these robots out of the lab and get them out into the world. And so we started the company in 2016. Valkyrie was a $5 million robot. It weighed 300 pounds. It was 6'2". And the goal was to get to an affordable sub $50,000 robot that could go from the lab out into the real world. And so we started the company. We had no money. We just had big dreams about what we could do, and we were willing to work hard for it. And so we've done 13 iterations of robots. We've done humanoid robots, Iron Man suits, mobile robotic arms. We've done 8 iterations of humanoid robots, 40 iterations of electric motors, all to get towards Apollo. And so this is the first production prototype. So this is an early prototype of the production model. We'll launch the actual production version later on this year, where it will finally go from the lab out into the real world. And we have about a 100-person team here in Austin, and it feels like we're really just getting started.
So what is your strategy? Is this a company something you want to grow and sell? Do you have an exit strategy or something else?
Well, for my investors in the room, I certainly didn't do this to make money. The fact of the matter was, when we got started, you get a lot of different advice when you start a company, and maybe the only consistent thing people told us was, do not do humanoid robots. Get a real job. That's going to take you 50 years. But we had these dreams about what the future could look like and what we thought a special group of people could do if we put our minds to it. So for me, I view this as my life's work. I don't try to think about things in terms of time scale. The way I kind of view life is like a relay race, and you get the baton and you just run like as hard and as fast for as long as you can until you get tired, and then you pass the baton off to the next generation. And so I'm still up for the race. I'm still willing to run, and we'll see how far we get.
So I know you for about a year, and I've seen a lot of different moments in the duration. And I know something interesting is happening in the past couple of months in the space of humanoid robotics. And I know also your story. I'm going to spill some beans. You told me you always have this exchange with investors that would not believe and say, hey, don't, we're not ready yet. Come back when it's working. And you said, when it's working, we don't need you. What is happening? What is happening? What's been happening? Why the change? What's up now?
Well, the way to think about what's happening in robotics is think of this like the early days of the personal computer revolution. So I think of industrial robots like mainframe computers. They're somewhat versatile, but they're these infrastructure-heavy machines. They're very difficult to program. Only a few people can afford them. And what we want to do in robotics is we want to shift into the PC era, where we have general-purpose platforms that can do a whole range of things that are much more versatile than they were in the past. And if you use that analogy, then think of this like the PC maybe in 1981. So this is the very beginning of this sort of journey that we're going to be on for the decades to come. The reason that I think people are excited about it right now is because of AI. And because now it's possible to have all of the components that we needed to actually generalize the robot and make them affordable. So motors are cheap enough, batteries are cheap enough, dense enough, good enough. We have the compute. And then we have the intelligence. We have the compute that now we can put on these types of robots. And so I think you're going to see this space accelerate very quickly. But, as you can see by the demo here, it's early days, and this is the very beginning. There's only a handful of teams in the world that I think are really set up to do this, and I think we built one of them here in Austin.
Okay. I heard the word affordable. I'm sure there are many people here who are curious about what the price would be, no? I know, I don't want to push you to the corner. I know it's not probably about today, but in a couple of years, what do you think that robots will cost? And do you think, how many people will have robots from your perspective?
I think at some point, everyone will have a robot. The question will be, what that robot looks like. I think there will be a Cambrian explosion of robots in the future. And, in the 90s, I think Microsoft was saying, there will be a computer on every desk in every home. I think in the future, there's going to be a robot in every home. And in terms of cost, there's only about $300 worth of raw aluminum in the entire robot. There's 1/25 the raw materials by weight in a robot than in a car. So there's no reason for these robots to be expensive. Our target for Apollo is the price of a car, so sub $50,000 is sort of the price point that we're targeting. But I think you can think about this like cars. Like there's Mercedes-Benz and there's Toyotas, there's Fiats, there's a variety of different models that are going to be out there. And it's going to be your choice what kind of robot you want. But I think they'll be accessible to everybody and affordable to all.
Interesting comparison with the cars. So we know what to expect from Volvo, what to expect from Mercedes-Benz, you know, what not to expect from some other brand. So where would you position Apollo? Where is it? Because like when you look at your competition, when you look at the landscape of humanoid robotics, where Apollo lands?
I kind of don't think like we're like anyone. So we don't really, I'm inspired by all of those companies. The company that I was most inspired by growing up was Apple. You talked about this in your talk sort of leading in, but this idea of the connection of technology and humanity. I remember when I first got my first Apple device, I felt like grateful. I was like, wow, like, thank you for making this. Thank you for thinking of this. And as I would use it, I would be like, oh man, you know, they thought of this, they thought of that. And that's the types of products that I want to create. I want to create products that make people feel excited to be alive and make people feel hopeful for the future. And so hopefully we can create our own space in this world and be our own unique version of whatever we set out to be.
Nice. So when you look back 8 years, what was your lowest point?
Oh man, lots of highs and lows in entrepreneurship, and certainly in this. You know, like the odds that I would be sitting here doing this with Apollo are impossible to calculate. You know, there was no odds. The lowest point, though, was this last summer when we lost one of our teammates. So, you know, this is the early people that come and join something like this, like nobody's doing it for the money. These are brilliant people that could be doing anything, anywhere, and they're coming because they believe in the future and they believe in what we can create. And so one of those people was a guy named Gerardo Blett. Dr. Gerardo Blett. And, you know, Gerardo was from MIT. He did a master's and a PhD. His brother passed away. There's two boys. They were from Mexico City. And his brother passed away in 2017. And Gerardo had these dreams about what robotics could be and where they could go. And he was a man on fire. He was determined, you know, to make it happen. And so he finished up his master's and PhD very quickly. We were incredibly lucky to have him. And we were building these machines, but we couldn't get them to do anything. And Gerardo was sort of breathing life into the machines. And he was, as my son would say, I have a 7-year-old son, he was like, Gerardo makes the robots walk. And so he was, I think he was one of the greatest engineers in the world. And so he passed away this summer in he drowned. And so that was really a wake-up call for all of us. And I think we met, the first time you came to visit us was a day after that.
Yeah, I remember I came to Austin, I was in the hotel and I got a call from Jeff asking me if we could postpone our meeting one day, one extra day, because a member of their team died. And I came there 48 hours later and the whole team was devastated. And I remember the story about the mother who came and was embracing the robot, saying that he left part of him in the robot. And later on finding out that actually part of it is true because no one could really understand a certain part of the code. There was like a black box. So it was a very interesting time and felt very, very unusual. But yeah, I understand. So we had promised that you will be able to ask questions. So I am looking now towards the, oh. I'm not leaving without, like, we have rehearsed. And I will bring this robot online. So I'm thinking questions or no? Let me look back. You are ready? Are you just telling me like that?
Should we do the questions first and then we can do this?
Yeah, we leave it for the end? Okay. Let's do the question. So, why Apollo needs to look like a human? Don't robots open up the doors to non-humanoid robots with capabilities different from humans? Good question.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't think all robots are going to be humanoid, but if you take my analogy of the personal computer, the question is, what is the most versatile form factor, right? The entire world is designed for humans. All of the tools that we use are designed for humans. And so if you want a robot that can work with us and around us and use all of our same tools, then I think the humanoid form factor is the form factor that's going to win the day. And from a technical perspective, if you look at the AI and think these new generative models where we can train from text, there's no reason we can't also train from human movement. And so this is sort of going to be key for the robots generalizing, because we can take humans doing tasks and then we can train these robots to do the same types of tasks. And that's going to allow robots to do many more things that they could do before. And so for all of those reasons, I think the humanoid robot is going to be the big winner.
Yeah, thank you. Mark Jacobson is asking, we've modeled robot intelligence after our brains and robotic forms after our bodies, but we don't have a model of our hearts. How do we address this?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I think that it's about the teams and the people that are creating these machines. You use the example of Gerardo's mom saying, you know, the thing that she said when she came to visit us was, she said that Gerardo poured his soul into this robot, and he died before he was able to have kids, and so she said, you know, this will enable him to live on. And so I think that the work that we're thinking about doing together and the work of all the people that are back at the office, we're pouring our hearts into these robots, and we're trying to make them good. And we're trying to really think intentionally about what the robots are going to do, how we should design them, how we'll communicate with them in the future. And I think that maybe that's the best we can do for now, and that's going to continue to be a journey as we move into the future.
I'm just going to add, when I was thinking about today's talk, and I was thinking about what Apollo represents to me and maybe most people, there are different differences. I think some people are approaching the robots like something that should be replacing them, but also how you can look at the robot is extending us. I look at it as an art. When you have a painting or you have a sculpture, you can see it has a soul. It has a soul because the artist has poured it in. And I feel like robot is like work of hundreds of artists. So it also can have a soul. I think it's just important for us to be intentional about it, and to not just make machines for the sake of making machines and think about this question. It was so important. Lendeo Herrera is asking, what are the main use cases for a robot like Apollo? Do you focus on industries or direct consumers?
Yeah, so these robots are going to start in commercial applications, and then you know, eventually they'll move into the home. So the work that Apollo can do today is relatively limited compared to where it will go in the future. So the initial applications that you guys are going to see is in the supply chain. Think like the easiest thing for a robot like this to do is move a box from one place to another. So if you think of like easy to hard on these types of machines, gross manipulation, we call it, is easier, and then fine dexterity, complexity of the task gets harder and harder. And so the robots are going to start in the supply chain. This is our view. Apollo will start in the supply chain. And that spans every industry. And I think everybody experienced this during COVID, is that we've got major challenges in our supply chain. We don't have the people to do this work. If you look at warehouses in Texas in the summer, people show up in the morning, they figure out what they're going to be doing for that day, and then they quit by lunch. And so we don't have enough people to do this. And so this is where Apollo is going to start. But then we'll be able to rapidly sort of expand the capabilities and tasks as Apollo is able to learn from people doing tasks over time. And so you'll see supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, working in automotive. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. But then working in retail, and where my dream is, where Apollo ends up, and I talked about this at the beginning, but is in healthcare. I think, you know, we're going to be short millions of nurses. I think the stat is 13 million nurses globally by 2030. And so what Apollo can do is work with teams of people. Apollo's not necessarily going to be a nurse, but what it's going to do is it's going to aid a nurse. The question is, why don't we have people that want to be nurses anymore? And the reason we don't is because they get trained, they go to expensive school, and then 60% of their job is fetching things from the supply closet, cleaning soiled bed linens, doing things that are not directly involved in patient care. And I think that is sort of an example to think about for how these robots are going to be in the future, where they're not necessarily going to take a job one-to-one. The question is, what is driving people out of these industries? What don't they like about their work? And how can you pair a robot with a person so the robot does the worst part of the job, and then you can elevate people to do new types of work in new types of ways?
Thank you. Jeff Cardenas.